alcohol we must discuss as well, because I'm trying to remember how you put it. It's not a sleep aid. It's a depressant. It basically knocks you out, and then you wake up at 2 a.m. and you don't feel restored. You didn't get good sleep, and your whole night is off. Alcohol is not good for sleep.
No, it's really not. And alcohol is probably the most misunderstood sleep aids that there is out there. It's not a sleep aid at all. It's desperately damaging to your sleep. But it's very natural that people, once they've tried over-the-counter medications, things like melatonin, which won't work, or valerian root, or magnesium, these things that really don't have any significant science behind them, they turn to alcohol. And alcohol will harm your sleep in 3 ways. The first is that alcohol is in a class of drugs called the sedatives, or a depressant. And what we mean by that is not necessarily a depressant in terms of your mood, although sometimes it can be. Alcohol, many people think, no, it actually makes me more alive and sort of alert. What's happening there is that it's the depressant, the brain cell depressant effects, that it actually shuts down what's called your frontal cortex, or your prefrontal cortex, which is what usually helps keep us with our inhibitions. And so we become disinhibited by way of alcohol. That's why people become the life of the party, because alcohol is depressing the brain activity in that part of the brain that normally makes you more reserved, especially if you're British. But let's come back to sleep. One of the problems with alcohol, as I said, is it's a class of drugs that we call the sedatives. And sedation is not sleep. But when you have a couple of nightcaps in the evening, what you mistake is sedation for sleep. That it just knocks out your cortex. It just sedates your brain cells. And so you think, well, I fell asleep so much more quickly when I had a couple of drinks in the evening. It's not. You're just knocking your cortex out. You're losing consciousness more quickly. But to argue that you're in naturalistic sleep is really a fallacy. If I were to show you the electrical signature of your brainwave activity with versus without alcohol, they're not the same. They're quite different. So that's the first issue with alcohol. The second issue with alcohol is that it fragments your sleep. So you wake up many more times throughout the night. It litters your sleep with these awakenings. The problem is those awakenings are usually so brief that you typically don't commit them to memory. So you wake up the next morning, you feel unrefreshed, you feel unrestored by your sleep, but you don't remember having a hard time falling asleep, and you don't remember waking up throughout the night.
You think it's just a hangover, but it's much more than just a hangover. It could be one glass of wine and you're still getting a bad night's sleep because of this that you don't even remember.
Precisely that. Yep. And so and we know the reason why. Alcohol will spike the fight or flight branch of the nervous system, which will jag the brain awake at night. Alcohol will also release alerting chemicals, which normally are lowering during sleep. Chemicals such as cortisol, for example, a stress-related chemical. Alcohol will jack that back up during sleep, hence increasing the likelihood of you waking up and the fragility of your sleep. The third and final issue with alcohol is that it seems to be very good at blocking your dream sleep or your rapid eye movement sleep. And as we've discussed, rapid eye movement sleep is critical for many things, for things like learning and memory and rebalancing your emotions and steering you away from things like depression and anxiety, because we've learned that dream sleep, particularly REM sleep, is a form of emotional first aid. It's overnight therapy. And if you're not getting that dream sleep because you're suppressing with alcohol, then you can have these next day consequences. Also, by the way, REM sleep is the time when we release many of our peak hormones, including growth hormone. One study looked at giving people a dose of alcohol in the evening. They sort of got them tipsy. And as a consequence, they had a 50% reduction in the release of growth hormone during the night, which is critical for the restoration of our body. It's one of the other main functions of sleep. We also know it's during REM sleep that males release their peak levels of testosterone. We don't release testosterone across the day in a constant amount. We release it during sleep, and particularly during dream sleep.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.